with my original group when Next Gen Studios was still up and running. And it was me, David, David's cousin, Sarah, Jason, Eric. I think we had one more person. Not too sure. Anyways, it was pretty much the old group. Uh, and we had made it to the land of Fae in Faerun. The land of Fae is kind of like this deserty type, you know. I find oases out in the middle of the sand dunes type, area while I'm going from a certain town location to another town location because I want to go and get the better deal from the more underground type merchant um, area. It was that kind of landscape. There's, of course, a lot of shit that happens and goes down in Fae. And it was where I first learned about red wizards, and that had kind of prompted me into researching more about red wizards, you know, just the lore in general. And inevitably, I would end up putting my own red wizards into my homebrew campaign, and having a mythos behind them all to their own. So, anyways, we've been going along as a group here for a while, and Sarah's kind of wanting to, well, she's kind of wanting to hit up on Eric a bit. She's kind of been throwing him hints and stuff for the last couple of games we've played and everything, and so inevitably, what would end up happening in her games is she'd do something to, throw everybody off and to spark certain conversation, right? And so she roped David's cousin into doing this with her, and she's like, well, she's talking to David, and she's like, well, I'd like to propose a campaign idea, you know? It's like, okay. And I only figured this out afterwards, of course, that the two had met with David before the game had even started, right? And they had, brainstormed this gaming idea, and he had told me I had no real clue why they wanted to do that or put themselves in that kind of position, but I was for it. I didn't care. And so basically, what it was we were going across the desert to another town in the land of Fae, and we get ambushed and attacked by an unknown group of orcish raider-esque type bandits, right? We're quickly caught off guard and surprised, and, the fight doesn't go well. We're all knocked out in one capacity or the other. When we wake up, or more specifically, when the men wake up, we are forced to fight in these kind of underground, gladiatorial-esque pit fighting arenas, kind of like something you would see similar to like the beginning of Conan, where he's forced to fight, one on one with, to the death with all sorts of, you know, other combatants after he's taken off the will and sold into slavery, sort of thing. It was kind of like that. And our our Jason, he was like, I'm playing a wizard, man. Like, I'm not gonna do well in a one-on-one fight. And David's like, no, that's okay because you are actually been you've actually been roped into being the entertainment. You're kind of like the court jester. He's like, gee, thanks. That's awesome. What prevents me from throwing a fireball in this asshole's face? This Sultan-esque figure who's hosting all these games and stuff. And he's like, well, everybody has a collar on. You know, it's like a mystic collar that prevents you from doing certain things. And the more runes it has around the collar, the more things it prevents you from doing. So, uh, our local wizard, Clayton Dadar, was reduced to doing parlor tricks, something similar to what an illusionist would be able to do. So he was reduced to that, and we were, of course, I was just given the regular branding slave collar because I'm just big He-Man fighter guy. But the girls, which was the plan all along, in which David had gotten to last as far as their predicament when they woke up, were sold into a harem. And when they awoke, they were given the full genie in the bottle esque, scantily clad harem clothing treatment. Okay, like really thin, see through, revealing shit. Whore attire, pretty much. Right? I was like, holy shit, and I was looking at them like, they're surprisingly cool with this, and like, they're just, sitting next to one another, just laughing and giggling and stuff, and, asking David to go into further descriptive detail, and, you know, she's, she's like, can mine be like a light, pink-esque color, and can mine be a light purple-esque color, and I can, like, what the fuck is going on? And yeah, she's like, you know, does the bra, reveal, my 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 two beauties? And he's like, yeah, it's very scantily clad. It's see through. You can, yeah. Even David's getting tripped up, right? He's like, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, totally revealing, totally scantily clad. Um, and you have been thrown into servitude with collars on your neck. And, then they went into all kinds of detail about, like, well, what do the collars force us to do? And it's just this, like, big, long fucking thing. They're just over sexualizing their characters in order to trip up a bunch of nerds, at the table. Um, and of course, she used this as an excuse to kind of further her flirtations for the evening with Eric, whom, mind you, kinda dense. Like, everybody noticed before he even did. I don't know if they ever really got together or did anything outside of the group. I mean, they probably did, but that's just something I wouldn't know. And so David's like, yeah, and you've got this orc wrangler, this head of the harem, and he's got this scepter that controls your collars and stuff like that. And if you get out of line, he'll shock you and make you get on your knees and all sorts of shit. It's just all sorts of stupid shit, right? know, very drawn out, over sexualized chunk of descriptive gameplay here. Okay, I mean, the the setup for this went on for like at least an hour, because there was our predicament where we were at, there was where our uh, wizard was at, and then there was a huge portion dedicated to where the ladies were at and what they were dealing with at the time, and the other girls that were in there with them, and the pecking order and stuff. And one of them even got into a chick fight, which started a bit of a riot, and it was kind of a part of their first master plan to cause a commotion to get the rod from the guy, because here's basically how it went. The whole idea was when their round came up, they were figuring out new ways and planning new ways to stick it to this orc guy who's the head of the harem, right? And trying to figure out ways to escape so that when their round came up, they could do that. And then, of course, when their round was going, we'd find ways to try and escape out of our predicament, and then try and find the girls, kind of be like guys who step in and save them, or if they escape first, the girls who stepped in and saved us. Guess what? It ended up being the girls who caused the huge commotion that freed all the other slaves and caused a huge, like, rebellious scene, that kind of allowed the rest of us to escape. Um, Not for a lack of everybody trying to escape, mind you, but it was somewhat of a predicament, needless to say. But yeah, no, if you ever have the chance to involve your characters in like a harem-esque storyline, right? And you have the intention of putting a couple of your female characters into the harem for a temporary time being, all I can recommend is be very careful on how far you go. Make sure they're okay with it in the first place. Maybe discuss it with them, as far as like come up with like a list of ideas, like a couple of games prior, and just be like, hey, I just want to run some ideas by you, and have that be like one of like 10 or so ideas that you had, and see if they'd be okay with it, and just kind of, be blasé about it, so to speak. Uh, but definitely want to probably make sure they're okay with it. And if they want to go further with it, hey, go further with it. Why not, If they're having fun, why not? But for the most part, if you feel like anybody in your group would be comfortable with that, there's no harm in having a harem full of NPC women, You can make them as scantily clad and over sexualized and as beautiful as you want them to be, because they're NPCs. You can even have a variety. Some are women, some are elves, some are half elves, some are tieflings. Maybe some of them are gnomes. Well, if I know, maybe one harem guy got lucky and got himself a nymph. Whatever it is you like. But yeah, either way, sexuality is in fact a part of D&D. So, you know, they didn't make a book about it for that world for nothing.